connect them. Bloom, oh, bloom, showing if they connect them.
Hello and welcome once again to a 10-minute chat as I work as a correspondent for the Bloom Show. Today's topic, I want to chat with you about your preparation. I'm sure many of you that are watching me today are getting ready for the big global produce and floral show in Anaheim with the IFPA next week. And so I want to chat with you quickly about my thoughts around some things you should be preparing for as you get to this year's show. You know, most of the folks, oh, and by the way, always remember to like, subscribe to this channel and share, please, because I would love to get my voice out to more folks so they can also join in this conversation. So, but if you think about the IFPA and the big convention, we know that retailers tend to go there mainly talking and thinking about maybe seeing something new, perhaps looking for a new supplier based on that. Of course, there's always the thought around planning for upcoming holidays, planning for upcoming business, and often a business review could be in the making whenever they're in the booth of their biggest providers. And of course, it's all about renewing relationships, right? A lot of retailers will be going out with the growers to dinner and just building on those relationships that they have. But I want to talk about what should be different and be part of your plan for this year's show. And I'm going to speak first to grower suppliers out there. This year, you need to be thinking about having intentional conversations at the beginning of the time with those retailers when they come to your scheduled time in your booth. Don't allow the walk around your booth and the normal conversations to derail these conversations. And here are the questions you need to be prepared with. You need to ask that retailer, what are the AI and supply chain initiatives that they are aware of that their company is embracing now and in the coming year of 2026? Ask the question, what new programs are coming? What are the data tools that you'll be needing? What does it look like? What are you hearing, retailer? And how am I going to be able to make sure that I support you when you begin to implement those new tools? They're going to need your help. And if you're part of that conversation at the beginning, you'll be ready. The second question you need to be prepared to ask them. Ask what their competitors are doing better than you. Not just about supply chain today and quality and product, but ask them also again about implementation of AI and supply chain initiatives. Or ask them what your competitors are doing better than you regarding implementation of the new stuff that is the big conversation they are having with their senior leaders in their company. Third big question, ask them about the team. And I'm talking now to the owner or the leader that will be in that big booth. Ask that director of floral, VP of floral, how's your team doing? Is your team supporting them the right way? Is your supply chain person on your team supporting their supply chain the right way? Is your salesperson having the right conversations? Is your marketing team delivering the marketing that they need? Is there a player that maybe should be unplugged and a new team member brought in? It's going to help you have those conversations with them that are rich around how you should refocus in the coming year beyond the product plan, beyond the holiday plan. Really, again, digging into especially all the noise that leader of floral is feeling right now about AI and the massive changes that are occurring in every single retailer right now as they embrace these new technologies. And again, these conversations are easy to postpone. So you've got to put them first in your booth agenda, or you know what'll happen. You'll offer them coffee, you'll catch up and chat, you'll walk them around the booth and show them the products you're selling, and you'll never get to these key questions. So growers, that's my challenge to you. Think through that and make sure you have a written script in your mind. You've got your notebook ready to take those conversations down and have them with your key retailers that you're supplying. Now to the retailers, the VPs of floral, the directors, and the rest of the folks who work in retail or who are preparing. I'm going to tell you right now, if I were you, I would be planning to take this weekend and perhaps even a half day, Monday or Tuesday. It's hard to do, but you've got to take the time to think through your strategy for the show. And I would suggest to you that this show, it's more important than ever for you to be ready to talk to your suppliers about the initiatives that you know are happening in your company. You should have a written one-pager that talks about the requirements of that new system that's being built, the changes that you're going to need in order to be able to share data or have the data come to you in the right way for you to be able to use these systems. And I would suggest to you to talk to your boss, those group VPs of Fresh or VP of Produce, or even the Chief Technology Officer or the VP of Tech. Have those conversations if you've been hearing about some stuff that's occurring in Center Store, because we know, those of us in retail, these new systems are going to be designed for Center Store first, because frankly, it's easier. It's easy for me to say, but to me, it's easier when you're dealing with a big CPG company and you're buying a group of items to stick on a gondola shelf, and you're just going to be applying, the use of data and AI or other supply chain automation to drive efficiency in that space. But you need to be aware of those things that are happening and ask the questions of, how would I go about using these new tools that are being implemented today in your company for your floral supply chain and for your connection to customers and for your marketing? And really taking the time over the next 4 days to build that one pager. You're not going to be talking to a lot of folks about it, but your key suppliers, most VPs of Floral have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 growers and suppliers total that are the key partnerships that you have. And again, be prepared to have that same conversation with them, outlining the data requirements, talking about, do you need to build an API? Use that booth time and the time at dinners to align execution and not just swap greetings and hugs and talking about what's going on in the business itself, but really getting into what is going to be necessary this year to stay successful with all the implementation of AI and AI-driven supply chain initiatives that are occurring in every company right now. As you begin to then think about how you're working the floor, you got to work the floor like a pro, right? There's never enough time. So you need to be thinking about booking short, focused meetings with clear outcomes, really having that discussion of, do we need to build a demand forecast feed with you to go into that? One of the things you've heard me talk about is dirty data. And I would suggest you need to be talking to your suppliers, if you're a retailer, about UPC by color, by SKU, by variety. And I'm telling you, I talked recently to a supplier that is doing this today with one very large retailer because it's now required. So for every other retailer out there, it's happening right now. And if you're not asking for the UPCs to clean up the data, you're going to have a hard time implementing AI the way that this company that has requested of this grower to do it. Growers, if you're not doing that, then you're going to fall behind quickly as the implementation begins. So book short, focused meetings. Carry a mini brief. Carry that one pager with you to make sure that you think through the conversation you want to have with those key folks when you have those scheduled meetings. Capture commitments in the moment. Have your calendar ready. Talk about follow-ups. Talk about let's have a conversation in 2 weeks and talk about who needs to be in that follow-up conversation. Remember, momentum fades fast. We all know that we go to these conventions and we have this massive high as we get the creativity in the conversations. Often we get back to the office and 3 months later, we realize we haven't implemented any of the things that we talked about at that show. So scheduling those follow-ups while you're there with those key partners after having these tough conversations will help you continue to have the flow. Again, talking about which members of which teams need to be on that next follow-up call. So, I look forward to seeing you there. I think it's going to be very exciting. The last piece I would say is to owners and to the senior retail leaders, you got to get out of the floral area as well while you're there. And this is hard. If you're a grower and you got a big booth, you feel tied to that booth, but you need to go to the technology hub area. There's going to be over 100 digital companies that are going to be at this show that are creating incredible systems for using AI and large language models for the produce industry. And we don't know about it because we're not as big of an opportunity as produce. And so you've got to be thinking that way. How do I get into that space? And just walk through and talk to some of the folks and learn while you're there and make connections with digital company leaders, these young startups that are going to be disrupting the produce industry and the flower industry in the coming 1 to 3 years. Now's the time to do it. Make sure you're doing that. So that's what I have for you today. I'm going to be there personally, of course. I look forward to seeing you. Text me, send me a note. Be happy to raise a glass with you. And of course, I also always ask you, remember to go to rockingbarzee.com to see more of my information, see some of the past posts about data, etc. And please share this, like it, subscribe to the channel, tell others about this conversation so we all have the best convention next week that we could have. My best to you. I will see you there. Thanks.
The Bloom Show, and if they connect them